You lie to yourself at times, now you're falling apart. Soon giving in this time, 'cause we're falling apart.
Hello there, coming to you live from the bunker. This is a special report for JW Watch, the show that keeps a close eye on all things JW, offering Jehovah's Witnesses a more objective viewpoint on current developments that the governing body almost certainly doesn't want them to hear. I'm doing this live stream today because JW Watch has received a letter. This is an internal letter. It's very clearly a secret letter that isn't intended to be read by ordinary Jehovah's Witnesses, much less ex-Jehovah's Witnesses like myself. But it's a letter that I feel is of relevance to anyone whose lives are affected by Jehovah's Witnesses, particularly those who still have believing friends and family who are Jehovah's Witnesses, because this is to do with COVID, this is to do with vaccines, and the governing body's policy regarding vaccines. So without much further ado, and by the way, we will be having a viewer invasion after we've looked at the letter, and it will be interesting to get some takes from you all during the viewer invasion. Basically what happens is a link gets dropped into the live chat. We just ask that you keep things respectful and on topic and show your camera. The latter criteria is more to deter trolls more than anything else. In any case, all of those disclaimers out of the way, let's take a look at the letter. So as you can see here, it's headed Governing Body of Jehovah's Witnesses. Can I make it a bit bigger on the screen? I believe I can. Bear with me one moment. Looks a bit better. Okay. So you can see that this is headed Governing Body of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's dated August 6th, 2021. Obviously, this live stream is only 4 days later, so this is a very recent letter. It's addressed to all special full-time servants at Bethel and in the field. I'm just going to read it. Dear brothers and sisters, it is clear that we are moving into another phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. As highly contagious variants emerge, the virus is rapidly spreading worldwide, particularly among those who are not vaccinated. Therefore, we are sharing this important information. Please keep it strictly confidential. Oops. It should not be shared with others. Next paragraph. The video 2021 Governing Body Update number 6 mentioned 3 important factors to consider concerning vaccination. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we do not have a religious objection to vaccination. 2, nearly 20,000 of our dear brothers and sisters have died from the COVID-19 virus. 3, in some lands, the superior authorities are enacting laws that require vaccination. In other lands, they are strongly encouraging their citizens to be vaccinated. As the study note on Romans 13 verse 5 says, a Christian submits to human governments when a command does not contradict God's laws. At the present time, 17,957 Bethel family members worldwide have been vaccinated. It's a very specific number, that, isn't it? Yet we have not received a report of even one Bethel family member having a severe adverse reaction or becoming seriously ill as a result of getting vaccinated. In contrast, we have noted that in the United States branch territory, 99% of the publishers who've been hospitalized for COVID-19 or who have died from COVID-19 were not vaccinated. With this in mind, and after much prayerful consideration, we have decided that it is our preference that all those in special full-time service at Bethel and in the field be vaccinated if at all possible. Although vaccination is a personal matter, we must acknowledge that our personal decisions often affect others. Our decisions also affect how we can be used in special full-time service by Jehovah's organization. For example, those who are vaccinated may have greater opportunities to support spiritual activities. How so? Because they're alive. More and more regional and national authorities are requiring proof of vaccination before people may publicly assemble. Similar concerns may eventually impact how we use our kingdom halls and assembly halls. They may also impact the work of travelling overseers in visiting congregations or in taking the lead at assemblies. It may also be that travel will be restricted for individuals who are not vaccinated. Even our ability to share in the public witnessing work may be affected. Clearly, in addition to the health benefits, there are good reasons for those in special full-time service to be vaccinated. In view of the above, we have asked the Healthcare Department, the HCD, to contact you to learn your current vaccination status. If for some medical reason you are unable to be vaccinated, please inform the HCD accordingly. They may be able to provide assistance. We pray that Jehovah will give you wisdom as you consider these important matters. Please accept an expression of our love and deep respect for each one of you, your brothers, governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. What an interesting letter, and really a letter that shouldn't be necessary. I mean, the previous policy, or the policy since the pandemic began and since there was first mention of vaccines, is, oh, we're neutral on this. We're not going to push you either way. And by the way, there's no religious objection to vaccination. You see that there at the beginning, don't you? As Jehovah's Witnesses, we do not have a religious objection to vaccination. The whole reason why they need to stress that, and why this letter is necessary to begin with, is because this is an organization that inserts itself in the decisions Jehovah's Witnesses make if it's a medical matter involving blood transfusions. That's the only reason, as far as I'm concerned. You know, they could have just from the beginning said, if there's medication that you can take to protect yourself from this pandemic, take it. They could have said that months ago, couldn't they? And you have to wonder, because this is exclusive to the Bethel family. All special full-time servants at Bethel and in the field. But you can bet that this is going to get rolled out sooner or later for all Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not being funny, the clock is ticking here. They've already lost nearly 20,000 Jehovah's Witnesses. And as it points out, was it 99% of those that have died haven't been vaccinated? You have to wonder, how are Jehovah's Witnesses going to react if they have lost a family member who's refused to be vaccinated, thinking that it would be wrong for whatever reason to be vaccinated, and that person could still be alive if they'd taken this position months ago, as they should have done. So it's just a fascinating letter, and I'm interested to see what the reaction is. I'm just taking a look at the comments now. Thanks, by the way, for the super chats, which producer Bob is kindly showing on screen for us. I think another thing as well, just before we go to the viewer invasion, another thing that kind of strikes me is, how can I put it? They have to involve them. They have to be seen to be the ones in charge of a crisis, even though it's a crisis that is unfolding irrespective of their thoughts on what is or isn't religiously acceptable. And what's been irritating for me as someone covering the governing body updates is the way they treat themselves like they're the news service, telling Jehovah's Witnesses things that they already should know because it's on their news. I don't know, for me, there's an arrogance about the way they impose their authority on this crisis and almost make it their business to prayerfully consider what Jehovah's Witnesses should do. I don't know, there's an enormous arrogance there for me. But let's do the viewer invasion. Hopefully we've covered the letter sufficiently. I'm interested to know what viewers make of it all. And to begin with, is there a banner that I can put on the bottom? I believe there is. Let's put the viewer invasion banner on the bottom. And producer Bob, if you could drop the link into the live chat. And yeah, let's take a bit of reaction from those of you watching. I noticed there are 800 watching now. Wow, that's amazing. And we already have a viewer with us. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad.
Great. I am not an XJW, not a JW at all. But have been really interested in the idea behind religion in general and how it affects lives. I just discovered your channel not too long ago. And so about this letter, to me, it sounds like they are realizing if they don't follow the rules, it could put restrictions that disallow Jehovah's Witnesses to actually do things that continue to support the organization. And I almost there was one part in the letter where it's like vaccinated Jehovah's Witnesses are allowed to do spiritual activities.
Yeah.
That just tells me they're allowed to go and build the kingdom halls. They're allowed to go do all these different things. And that's how I take this letter.
That made me chuckle. Our decisions also affect how we can be used in special full-time service by Jehovah's organization, as though that's the be-all and end-all. You know, the main consideration should be this is going to save your life.
Exactly.
But they're putting your usefulness as a believer to the organization. They're giving that quite a degree of prominence. So yeah, I agree. That was weird.
Yeah, it's a very off-putting letter in the sense of like, it's definitely I don't feel warmth of like we care about you, but rather we care about what you can do for us.
Absolutely, that's a great observation. Thank you so much, Michael. We'll take another caller, but I really appreciate you dropping by. Okay,
absolutely. Bye now.
Take care, dude. See ya. Oh, and sorry. Welcome, Ash. Is it
Hi,
Ash?
Lloyd.
Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah.
Excellent.
It kind of.
And thank you. Go on.
Oh, it kind of sounds like they're desperate because of losing so many witnesses. That if they don't push the vaccine and push like ways to save people's lives, then they're just gonna the religion's just gonna die out.
Yeah, I think, well, that's kind of a justifiable response in a way, because in the 2020 figures, of course, the numbers dropped for the first time in 42 years. And, you know, as much as I would like to say it has nothing to do with COVID, realistically, you know, it has to be largely down to the pandemic. And, for example, you know, African congregations not all having access to Zoom and that kind of thing. So, and, you know, not to mention the actual loss of life among Jehovah's Witnesses. So, yeah, I think the COVID pandemic has taken them completely off guard. And in their governing body updates, they like to present this image of, oh, we're totally on top of this. We have everything under control. And you just sense that behind the scenes, they are running around screaming, saying, what on earth is happening? What will become of our organization?
Yeah, it kind of feels like, obviously it doesn't feel kind of like a heartwarming letter in any way, but it does sound like they're going to make them mandatory for stuff like conventions and meetings, which is kind of good, I think. because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
going to save a lot of like their elderly in the congregation and stuff.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm thrilled at this policy change. My question is why couldn't this have been the policy to begin with? It's almost like we're the governing body. We get to, in our own sweet time, prayerfully consider whether this is something that we can actually recommend, rather than simply saying, "Oh, it's a personal decision." You know.
Yeah, it's a shame that they didn't push it at the start. They just said, well, if you want to get it, sure. If you don't, it doesn't matter, but you can't say it's because you're a Jehovah's Witness.
Absolutely. Well, look, Ash, I really appreciate your input on this, and please do drop by in a future viewer invasion if you can.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, take care. So, we also have Victoria Roberts, who seems to be on the move. How are you, Victoria?
I'm good, thank you. I'm slimming well consultant. I've just finished with Greek, so I'm just packing up.
Okay.
I also want to say I've never been a Jehovah's Witness, so I'll preface whatever I've got to say with I don't have as much knowledge as other people, but looking at it, I kind of see what you're saying with the whole it's all about them. But I am really, really relieved to say that they are doing it.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is why is it just for the Bethel family? Why are they not showing this to everybody? Because surely all Jehovah's Witnesses, regardless whether at Bethel or not, need the vaccine.
Yeah, the clock's ticking on this, isn't it? Sorry,
Yeah.
if you could just reduce the volume on your device a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
So the clock's ticking on this, and the COVID vaccine isn't going to be waiting for them to release a letter to all Jehovah's Witnesses. This is
Yeah.
something where if they've reached this decision after prayerful consideration, it shouldn't be like an elite-only thing. It should be for everybody.
I agree, yeah.
Definitely. We're on the same page there, I think. Thank you so much for tuning in, Victoria, and please join us on a future View Invasion.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers. So that was Victoria. We now have Deb. Welcome, Deb. Oh, the screen's... Oh, can you just... Sorry, Deb, could you just turn your microphone either on or up? We're not quite hearing you. At least gravity isn't an issue this time. We have had problems before with gravity. Oh, no, don't do that. So we're still struggling to hear you a little bit. No, we're not hearing you. I do apologize. Maybe if you could do hand gestures to make your point. Okay, what I'm going to do for now, Deb, is there should hopefully be some settings that you can toggle around with. I'm going to dump you off, but if you could stay around and try and get your settings right, we'll have you back on again a bit later. Okay, so we have Joanna. How are you? It's Johanna.
Yep.
I'll get there eventually. I'll get there eventually. Welcome, Johanna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad at all.
All right. So here's the biggest thing that hit me out of that letter. They have the statistics, obviously, of the Bethel family that got vaccinated, which I would imagine that they would have to have. But they also have statistics of publishers who have died from COVID. How did they know that those publishers were not vaccinated? They must have some kind of congregational record keeping on who's been vaccinated and who hasn't.
That's a good point. Yeah. How did they know that level of information?
Right. And why is it any of their business what a person does in their, medically?
If it's a personal decision, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that the information is relevant when you have a pandemic, but if it's truly a personal decision, and if medical choices are truly a personal matter, how did they get hold of that particular statistic?
Right.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. Yeah.
That's pretty chilling, actually, because that means that probably congregational elders were calling publishers, asking them whether or not they got vaccinated, and then sending records to the governing body.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. You don't even think about when we're talking about pandemics and people dying from viruses, deadly viruses. You don't necessarily think about the data aspect, do you? But this is an organization that has very chilling attitudes towards personal information and data. So that's a really good point, actually. Thank you for raising that.
You're welcome. That's all I had to say.
No, that's really good. And thank you, Johanna. We have a number of other callers lining up, but please do join us again for another viewer invasion in the future if you can. That'd be lovely.
I will for sure.
Okay, take care. That was a great point. Welcome to Claire. How are you, Claire?
Hello, Lloyd. How are you?
Very well indeed.
Good. Well, there's two things that stood out to me as well. And that is, one, the governing body are older men, so therefore they are more vulnerable to catching COVID straight away. So you have to ask yourself, is there a bit of a selfish element to this? They're looking at it purely for their own eyes. And then the other point that sort of stuck out to me is they, when I was going the Kingdom Hall, it was all about throw your burden on Jehovah. Jehovah will look after you. It doesn't matter what happens in the world. Jehovah will always be there. Well, clearly this pandemic has shown that Jehovah's not there. He's not affording any special protection to his people because they're dying in thousands, clearly, from the figures. So to me, it's just craziness, when they speak in terms of being a special, protected, chosen people, but they're clearly not. Clearly not.
Definitely. And I think there's two really good points that you raised there. First of all, when it's something that threatens the governing body, all of a sudden it's a case of, we need to obey Caesar.
Yeah, they're all over it like a rash.
They don't take that attitude when it comes to protecting children and, for example, complying with the recommendations of the Australian Royal Commission in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
And second of all, you make a great point about, if this is Jehovah's organization and it's actually benefiting from God's intervention, which we hear repeated references to whenever they say Jehovah's hand. We've seen Jehovah's hand in this matter.
Yes.
As I've repeatedly said, either God is intervening in Earth's affairs or he isn't.
Yeah.
It's much simpler if you just say God isn't intervening. But when you do start suggesting that God intervenes, you then have to explain, well, how has he let 20,000 Jehovah's Witnesses die?
Yeah, his supposed chosen people, supposedly.
It's as simple as a particle of I don't know whether that's the correct term, but it's as simple as a bit of COVID getting into your body. That's all it is, and God's not stopping that from happening with his people. So
no, he's not. So it says a lot to me.
Really good point. Excellent. Well, please do join us again for a future viewer invasion, especially when you're making such excellent points. Thank you, Claire.
Will do.
Take care. So, that was brilliant. Great. The viewer invasion is on fire today, must be said. So, I'll take a couple more calls. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do want to get a bit of reaction because obviously many people will be affected by this. Welcome to... Actually, let's just try Deb once more. Maybe Deb's got the audio issues resolved.
Did I fix it?
Yes, you fixed it. Well done, Deb.
All right. I was just gonna say that witnesses have a really warped idea of personal decision or up to you. Like in the governing body updates, like it sounded nice, it's your decision. Do whatever you want. Here are some numbers to maybe help you decide. Like they clearly wanted all of us to get vaccinated, but it wasn't pushy. Now it almost feels like the same kind of tone as disassociation. Like, hey, yeah, it's your fault. I mean, it's your choice. You can do whatever you want. But if you make the wrong decision, you can't do X, Y, and Z. And now it's sounding the same. Now they're saying, personal decision, but if you don't get vaccinated, you can't pioneer or whatever. So it doesn't sound like a personal decision.
Yeah, it's a really interesting letter, isn't it? That they're going as far as they can from shifting from neutral to pro. In fact, they are, let's face it, they are, based on that letter, pro-vaccine. But even though they're now pro-vaccine, they're still not quite saying look, we don't care. Well, are they saying that? I think they are saying everyone should get vaccinated, but it's not yet a thing for all Jehovah's Witnesses. So at the end of the letter, they say, if for some medical reason you are unable to be vaccinated, please inform the HCD accordingly. So in other words, there has to be a medical reason. It can't be simply a case of, oh, I don't fancy it. I've lost your audio again. Sorry, Dev. I do apologize. But it was nice. Well, that was a good point, by the way. And please do try again in a future Viewer Invasion, because when you make such good points, it's nice to have you on in future shows. Thank you. Take care. Yeah, it's a strange situation, isn't it, viewers, for Jehovah's Witnesses to have this sort of wishy-washy response to something so serious. Let's bring in Ian, who is an ex-JW ally, as I understand it. Welcome, Ian.
That's right. Thank you, Lloyd. Really, I want to look at what Johanna was saying, and what hit me straight away was the fact that surely there are some data protection issues, certainly here in the UK. Well, I suppose if they're talking about Bethel's, then I'm not quite sure what the equivalent laws are in the US. But to ask for that data, to ask for that data so they can put it on their database seems a bit wrong somehow. But then, when have they ever actually complied with data protection?
True. I guess when it comes to Bethelites, it's going to be fairly straightforward for them to get Bethelites to sign various data disclaimers when they join, or even after they've joined. But Johanna made the very good point that they were citing statistics for ordinary Jehovah's Witnesses. They were saying that 99% of ordinary Jehovah's Witnesses who've died have not been vaccinated, and that's a particular piece of medical information that they're just throwing around. And you wonder, how have you gleaned this information? Is everything? Yeah.
It's possible they got that information from the general statistics, which I think is saying, certainly in the UK, they're saying how many people have died from COVID. And the general thing going around was, it's 99% who have died from COVID in the last month or so were actually unvaccinated. So they may not have any specific data. I don't know.
The way I read it was that they do, and it's very easy for me to imagine that they actually do have that information, because they have the apparatus in place. They have the elders who can ring the grieving family of someone who's just died, and I'm sure elders wouldn't hesitate for a moment if it was their MO, if it was what they were required to do, to say, by the way, was he or she vaccinated? I think that's how it's happened.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting. But can I just say, thank you for calling in, and thank you for being an ex-JW ally. I take it that means that you've not been a Jehovah's Witness.
No, never.
And we've had someone else on the call who's in that situation, and I find it incredibly heartwarming when people rally to our cause and say, yeah, we're going to get behind this, even though we weren't personally affected. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I've been having some interesting conversations with two local elders, so I'll be posting about that fairly soon.
Please do. Okay, thank you so much. Take care, Ian. Wow, so we have a number of people still. I'm going to try and get through as many as I possibly can, because these are some really good comments. Welcome, Dallas. How are you?
Hi, Lloyd. I'm good. How about you?
I'm very well. And Dallas has his own YouTube channel. I'm not sure how I'd go about. Can you tell us the name of it?
Yeah, it's just called Dallas Reads, and it's really just a book review channel. It's not an XJW channel or anything, but I did read your second book. I'm actually about to start your first book because I loved your second book so much. But yeah, I reviewed that on the channel, and I used that as an opportunity to, use some activism work. So
excellent. I appreciate it. And what do you think about the COVID letter?
Well, I think it's interesting because, and I think another viewer invader brought this out, but this is a private letter, so this isn't public. But also, so that part's a little bit odd because it's obviously good if, you know, people want to get vaccinated. So that part's fine, but they're changing something and then it's not public. But also you look at the video that we had yesterday in your convention video, we have the dramatization of a sister, and I'm sure it's not COVID related, but she's sick. It's probably something terminal. And it's saying all you need is Jehovah. That's all you need. They don't encourage her to get, you know, further medical treatment. She's not encouraged to talk to a therapist, anything like that. But in this case, it's not, oh, all you need is Jehovah. It's, oh, well, you know, we kind of want you to get vaccinated and we want you to tell us about it now. So I know it might be odd to kind of compare those things, but that's just kind of what it made me think of, you know?
Yeah, the message in that dramatization was very clearly, you're not going to make it through a health crisis unless you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and hey, you have this amazing support network to lean on, a support network that will drop you like a ton of bricks if you so much as start skipping meetings, by the way. But yeah, it's a very odd attitude this organization takes to health in general, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Great point. Thank you so much, Dallas, and please do join us on future Viewer Invasions if you can.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Cheers, pal. Okay. And we have Jesse. Welcome, Jesse.
Hey, how are you, Lloyd?
Not bad at all.
Good. Well, I didn't have a whole lot to say. One thing that kind of struck me about the letter kind of links back to how one of the things that caused me to wake up was the realization that a lot of the major changes that had happened, for example, the donation arrangement back in the day growing up when it was a mandatory thing, 50 cents for printing costs, we'd say, went to voluntary. And I thought, wow, what wisdom, what, you know, Jehovah leading the way. But to find out later that it was just because of tax reasons. It was the organization making a decision that followed the wisdom of man and or followed man-made situation. So this again feels like it's not divine wisdom. It's not Jehovah providing wisdom at the proper time. It's man or man's governments leading the way and Watchtower following.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's got human fingerprints all over it, this, hasn't it? Because precisely. If God was really steering the organization, they would have had a pro-vaccine stance to begin with. It wouldn't have been a case of the governing body effectively saying, oh, well, we have to sign off on this. We have to all be in agreement on this. And yeah, we have to give permission effectively for this to be the organization's stance. And it's almost as though, yeah, you sense that the governing body are a little bit, I wouldn't say anti-vax, but kind of at least sympathetic to perhaps Jehovah's Witnesses who are anti-vax and not wanting to ruffle too many feathers. I guess that's the only reason I can think of as to why they would drag their feet on this.
I wonder if it's I'm just thinking, I wonder if this is a trial balloon, since it is a private letter, if they'll see the reaction, test the water, and then if it goes well, say something to the general rank and file.
I guess, but the thing is, everything that I learn about Bethelites tells me that you do not get to kick up a fuss. When you receive a letter like this, you know, it's the governing body's way or the highway. It's put up or shut up. So I don't sense them getting pushback from this letter. What this letter tells me, if anything, is that they value and care about the Bethel family, the worldwide Bethel family, more than they care about the rank and file. Because if they cared about all Jehovah's Witnesses universally, regardless of their position, they wouldn't need to send a letter to the Bethel family first. It would just be to everybody instantly. But obviously the Bethel family are the ones that they work with closely. The Bethel family are the ones who are tending to the machinery of the organization, and that's what matters to them. The organization comes first.
Absolutely. All right.
Chilling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, thank you for taking my call.
Oh, absolute pleasure. And please do join a future Viewer Invasion if you can. Thank you. Thanks, Jesse.
It. Thanks.
Take care. Okay. Another great point. Great, wonderful Viewer Invasion. top marks to all of our callers so far. And welcome. Is it Ida? Is that how I'm pronouncing it?
Actually.
Ida.
Yes.
Ah, well, thank you for correcting me, Ida. I'm
no worries.
I hate it when names are mispronounced.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm used to it at this point.
And I'm a serial offender as well.
Hey, at least you try,
Okay.
unlike the governing body. So.
Exactly. Samuel Hurd doesn't even want to try to pronounce names.
Nope.
He just gets Roboron to do it for him.
No.
What did you think about the letter?
I had a brother. I raised my hand to comment on a Sunday one time, and he couldn't pronounce my last name. And he said from the podium, sorry, I always have to think of Taco Bell when I say your name. And he still couldn't say it. And everybody
thank you. Yeah, I feel so dignified when you say that.
Yes,
wow.
Exactly. Yes. So sorry, I'm shaking a little bit. I'm a little nervous. But yes, I found two things about the letter very interesting. So the first one was how I feel like they're almost like dangling privileges in the Kingdom Hall above these brothers and sisters' heads. Almost like wearing a beard. I know I knew plenty of brothers when I was in, which I've been out for about 2 years now. But I knew plenty of brothers that were around my age, like late teens, early 20s, that really wanted beards. They liked how they looked, but they were like, I want to be able to hold a mic. I want to be able to do this. And it just, obviously this is for a good cause. And obviously we want people to get vaccinated if they can. But it's funny how they sneak into the video almost a little bit more brainwashing to make sure that Jehovah's Witnesses have their priorities straight, that, this is the reason that it's good to get vaccinated. This is the reason why you should want to, not because it could save other people's lives or yours, but you want to be able to hold the microphone, don't you? It's very interesting how they do that. And then also, too, how they insert themselves, which you've touched on it a lot, but they insert themselves into an issue that has nothing to do with them. It's almost like if they released a letter, telling Jehovah's Witnesses, well, it's always been a personal decision, but, drinking almond milk over dairy milk, we see in Ecclesiastes, blah, blah, blah. It's like, this has nothing to do with anything that they have power over, but they almost have to stick their little hands in everything to kind of give that power complex to all the rank and file.
Absolutely. The letter drips with, this is with the arrogance of saying, this is something that we insist on having a say on. Yes. And as you point out, interesting how everything revolves around privileges and everything revolves around usefulness to the organization. It should be very simple. It should be a case of, we want to keep you all alive.
Yes.
People's usefulness to the organization is kind of irrelevant compared to keeping people alive. So yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me on.
An absolute pleasure. And please do call in again on future viewer invasions.
Absolutely.
And I'll try and pronounce your name correctly next time.
No problem.
Take care.
Thanks.
Excellent. And I'm going to take how many more? Let's run it up to 45 minutes. I'm mindful of the fact that, wow, over 1,000 people watching at this point. This is clearly a subject of interest, understandably. Welcome to Justin. How are you?
What's up, Lloyd?
Not bad at all, yeah.
So I think it's funny, watching this and knowing that the governing body loves to control every part of people's lives. But on this, it seems like they could get in trouble if they just flat out say, get the vaccine, because most of your brothers and sisters are old people and most at risk. But they can't. It doesn't seem like they can do that. So it probably frustrates them, because they don't care about controlling every little part of people's lives that they can. So I imagine they're quite frustrated with this.
Yeah, I'd love to know exactly why they're dragging their feet, or why it's taken them so long to take a pro vaccine stance. Again, I can't help but wonder whether they've been pandering maybe a little bit to, anti-vaxxer sentiment, because I know that, there are many Jehovah's Witnesses who, they're really into homeopathy and, crystals and all, all that nonsense.
Yeah.
So I can't help but wonder whether they've been worried about ruffling feathers, and now they're like, oh, shit is getting real. We're losing literally tens of thousands of our followers here, and this is also a pandemic that directly threatens the demographic that the governing body is in. So, yeah, goodness knows what their thinking is. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I think, like, I live in the Bible Belt in the United States, and there's a lot of people around here who are anti-vax, so probably goes hand in hand somewhat. A lot of religious people being anti-vax. I don't know. Maybe not, but
it will be interesting, because almost inevitably this is going to get rolled out to all Jehovah's Witnesses. Again, it's irresponsible of them to do it in this staggered way. If this is their position, all Jehovah's Witnesses should be hearing about it straight away. But it will be interesting to know how this change in policy is received by rank and file witnesses in parts of the world like the Bible Belt, where there is resistance to vaccines and to this sort of thing. So it will be interesting to see what the pushback is there. So
I just want to know what Jehovah's opinion on the vaccine is. Like, where is Jehovah's opinion? That's all I need.
Maybe we can get him to join the viewer invasion at some point. That would be good, wouldn't it?
Maybe he'll call in from heaven.
The big J himself. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. Please join a future viewer invasion if you can. Take care. So, we're working our way through. Again, some wonderful comments here. Let's take... I'm getting here 39... Is it Crossroads?
Crossroads Circle. Or Crossroads. So it's like it's a group. It's a group of people that kind of like work together and stuff. I always drop our little tag there.
Okay.
But yeah, I go by 39. Most people know me as 39.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling in. What did you think about the letter?
I thought it was the typical. But it is funny how they want to get into medical issues, and like preserving life at this point in time, It's like, I wonder when they're going to send out a letter that explains how many people died because of, the blood policy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are those statistics?
Can we get something that explains that? Because I was trying to look it up before. I was like, I know that the numbers are bigger than they're trying to show right now, but like, where are these numbers? Are you guys going to put out a letter that explains like, the statistics and the likelihood of surviving without taking a blood transfusion?
Yeah, they're keeping very careful note of how many Jehovah's Witnesses are dying from COVID. But I'd love to know, and as I'm sure would you, what's the body count from interfering with the decisions that Jehovah's Witnesses make regarding blood? So yeah, that's a really good point.
Also, like how many disfellowship people commit suicide?
Exactly. Yeah.
If they want to dip their toes into the medical field.
Yeah, it's an organization with blood on its hands, and frankly, it will kind of have blood on its hands just by dragging its feet on this. As I was already arguing, the COVID-19 isn't going to be waiting around for the letter to hit the rank and file. It's going to be doing its thing between now and then, and possibly, who knows, killing actual numbers of Jehovah's Witnesses who might otherwise have taken the vaccine if they'd had this sort of instruction from the governing body. So
yeah. But instead, I mean, when I was, watching you read it, it put the convention kind of into retrospect, because I'm like, okay, now I know why you guys, the first day, it's like you're almost begging for all of the different demographics of people who have a chance of maybe coming back into the religion, but definitely, what they say, people with one believing parent. That was me growing up. People who are single, And I feel like that's because those people might end up with a unbelieving mate eventually, right? And they could pull them out. And then what was the third demographic that they were hunting for?
Oh, I'd have to check. Sorry, it's not in front of me now. So it was... no, sorry, it's not in front of me.
It's okay. Single parent, single people.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. So it's
it's at the tip of my tongue.
It was fatherless children, was it? Or
no, that was the first one.
Sorry, so fatherless children, single people, and yeah, I know what you mean. There were various different demographics that they were describing in the symposium.
Yeah, but it's like they know that they're losing numbers and stuff, and they were pretty much just encouraging Jehovah's Witnesses who are single to just be like, come work for us. You're a valuable resource, you know, like. And it's like, is this just, are you guys this cognitive of the fact that you're losing numbers, that you're grabbing at these people to bring them into the fold, knowing damn well that the pandemic has brought so many people out, and you wasted so much time doing that when you could have dropped a vaccine video.
Indeed. It's, it has, as another caller commented, it's such a human response, isn't it? There's absolutely no Holy Spirit obvious at all in the way this organization deals with the crisis. It's just exactly how you would expect of an entitled religious leadership. So that's a really good point. Thank you for that, 39. That's all we have time for with the Viewer Invasion, but thank you for calling in, and please do join a future Viewer Invasion if you can. Okay.
Thank you, Lloyd. Have a good one. Stay safe.
So that's all we have time for with the Viewer Invasion. I want to keep this live stream fairly short and sweet because I'm mindful of the fact that, you know, some people don't tend to watch the longer videos, and I think this is an important one. So I want to keep this fairly short, but I do appreciate all of you who've called in on the Viewer Invasion. If you haven't managed to make it on this Viewer Invasion, please try again in a future Viewer Invasion. And the same goes to those of you who did make it through. Really good comments. I just want to quickly thank those super chats that you saw on the screen earlier. We had Stephen Meyer, we had Justin, The Shunned Experience, Personal Gmail, Julian Plentilly, I think that's it. Oh, sorry, Josh Mundy, Briar Rook, Ian C. Doherty. So yes, thank you so much for those super chats, which help enormously the channel. And that's it. Really interesting letter. Please do share this video, especially, I guess, if you have believing Jehovah's Witnesses. Don't necessarily share the video, but at least let them know that there has been this policy shift. As I've commented repeatedly, you know, every minute, every second that the governing body drags their feet and makes this only about protecting Bethelites, conceivably Jehovah's Witnesses could die, you know? And what does that say about the organization? So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. That's all we have time for. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more such videos. And as always, thank you for watching.